value versus cost, access, and we want to take on two of the breast cancer controversies that we've exchanged emails about as we prepared for this session. One is the Avastin issue, and the other is the use of progression-free survival rather than overall survival for drug approval.
Overall survival and progression-free survival, and it's just a hot topic, and I know we're limited in time, so it's hard to sort of drill down on what soundbite might be the most meaningful. I guess what I'd like to say is that we're individuals, we're people, and it's very hard to be talking about progression-free survival, overall survival, and apply it to large masses of people, because if you're dealing with metastatic cancer, breast cancer, any cancer, you know, what's meaningful to me may not be meaningful to you or any one of you. We all have different meaning in our lives. We all have different goals. We all have different purposes. And we all have different tolerance or acceptance for the side effects of any given treatment at any given moment in our lives, which can change from day to day, from week to week, and so on. So I think it's about quality of life and what that means for individual people. And it's hard to place value and judgment for millions of people on overall survival and progression-free survival.
I think in a very basic sense, it almost doesn't matter to the patient. I mean, I think if you asked most patients, you know, what do you even know what the difference is, they would probably say, no, I don't know. And when it comes down to the decisions that are made on behalf of the patients, that's a big issue. That being said, from an advocacy perspective, it's difficult to really divide it out. I agree with Elise that, you know, on the one hand, you're talking about individual patients, on the other hand, you're talking about aggregate. And you know, research is all about aggregate. It's not about individuals. And unfortunately, sometimes the research doesn't show the benefit to the individual, or the converse is true. And it's a very fine line. In the advocacy community, I think we have our primary responsibility to be representative of our constituents. Who are we representing? I'm representing the triple negative community. Young Survival Coalition is representing young women. Force has a population, Sisters has a population. We have to be aware of what that population wants, what their needs are, and we can do the best job that we can do in doing that. And sometimes we don't have all the information about who we're representing, and we can't take a stand on it. We can have an opinion about it. We can't necessarily take a stand as an organization.
I serve as the consumer representative on ODAC, which, as you said, is the Oncologic Drug Advisory Committee for the Food and Drug Administration. And so I have the daunting task of trying to represent the entire consumer population, which unfortunately is not one voice, and I'm only one person, and I get one vote on the committee. And that's for all cancers, you know, not just breast. There's a patient representative on that represents the particular organ of origin of the disease we're talking about at a given time. And there's no question, Avastin and the whole progression-free survival, overall survival debate has become a really hot topic, and my inbox in my email system shows that every time it comes up.
Well, it's the Avastin issue. It's even bigger than the Avastin. I mean,
it is.
Can you expand on that? Some of the comments and some of the reaction. It must be a mix of both anger and fear. And
it's a huge issue, and I think, you know, we talked about paradigm shifts at the beginning of this. I think we're in the midst of a paradigm shift there too, in that up to this point, we didn't really deal with metastatic disease much in cancer. We didn't survive. Now we have this big change that we're living longer, and we're going to have to deal with people who have had lots and lots of treatment. And those people, you know, as you said, at least you're at a very different place. If maybe you have had 4 or 5 different therapies, those have all had an impact on your system. You're not going to respond in the same way in that nice, clean, newly diagnosed patient who's on their first therapy, and it's pretty easy to manage and quantitate that overall survival piece. When you have all these other confounders, things change, and even to measure quality of life. You know, if I've got the potential of 6 months on a new drug and I have a child that's going to graduate from high school in 6 months, I will tolerate hypertension, you know, I will tolerate all kinds of liver issues. I'm probably willing to sign away anything. Where if I'm an earlier stage breast cancer patient, I'm probably not going to be quite as willing to do those things. And the good piece about all of this, believe me, having had many sleepless nights over, and I'm not sure I can say good piece, but I think is it has opened a dialogue that had to happen. In the regulatory community, in the patient community, you know, this stuff had to come out, and there's been a lot of fear, a lot of anger. A big piece that I think the advocacy community has to do is to help take the information that's out there and help the public understand what we're trying to deal with, and help them to understand the system. Until I spent these 4 years, I'm getting ready to finish my term on ODAC, I didn't completely understand the issues, and I've been a part of the breast cancer advocacy community for 11 years now, full time. And to understand all of those implications has been really important. We want safe drugs that do more than just incremental advances, but we also know there's a huge population of people out there who say, you know, I need something, buy me a little more time. And to balance, where do you find that balance? But I think it's opening some really good dialogue, and I think we're going to see more and more happen within the regulatory agencies, within the pharmaceutical companies. You know, they're going to have to come with really good data if drugs are going to make it to the public. And we have a big responsibility to get that safety and efficacy there that makes a difference. And then cost, which the FDA can't look at.
And the cost issue is that if we are going to be facing changes in our healthcare delivery system, there is a concern about compounds that are out there that may not be readily available as they may be today, tomorrow.
I'm facing losing my insurance, and the only thing that's been offered to me is a $2,500 deductible and a $1,000 a month premium with no prescription coverage, because 16 years ago I was diagnosed with inflammatory breast cancer. And you know, I'm finding out what many people in our society are facing. That scares me. You know, it's a really frightening thing to think if my cancer or some other major thing comes back, what do I do?
It's not only the issue of drugs. There is reasonable concern over imaging technologies, PET scanning, testing. New technology. So there may be impediments to the progress in areas of research, and I worry that what can happen is the incentive to drive research forward might become more restrictive and limited, and that's a concern whether you have breast cancer or any cancer type.
I served on ODAC too as a patient advocate, which is different than a consumer advocate. I just wanted to say a few words. I think that counterposing progression-free survival on the endpoint question and overall survival is wrong. That's not what PASDA or the FDA is saying. I mean, they're saying if you have progression-free survival only and no overall survival, there has to be some benefit from that in terms of quality of life. If you don't have a survival benefit and you don't have a quality of life benefit, you know, what do you get out of this drug? The idea is that if you can stay on a drug longer and it's going to alleviate your symptoms longer, that's good, you know. But if it doesn't do that, and then that was the problem with Avastin, is that they didn't look at the side effects. And and whenever you put two, I mean, in general, whenever you put two drugs together, you know, you're going to end up with more side effects than one. So these trials that look at Avastin and Xeloda, which was versus Xeloda alone, which was done in the third line, you know, there's always, and what it doesn't compare is Avastin and Xeloda together versus Xeloda and then Avastin after it, or vice versa. So I just wanted to say that I think you have to think, you have to get some benefit from progression-free survival if it's not a overall survival benefit, and it should be quality of life, and it should be measured. I think that's really important. We don't just think about ourselves, we also think about women in the future, and we really want to try to make a significant impact, and you get what you ask for, I believe. And if we don't ask for drugs that really make a difference, then we're not going to get them. I mean, I've been here, the last 3 years, we've had 3 hours of discussion on tamoxifen versus AIs. What, you know, it's been a real, the incremental changes, and this is why I'm supporting the NBCC deadline, 10-year deadline. I think that we need to reinvigorate the research community. We need to get rid of, not get rid of, but have more enthusiasm for big research changes, and to have researchers and advocates collaborate, and not just accept the status quo. There's no urgency anymore. I think people are kind of satisfied that we're making, and we are making gains. I'm not saying that we aren't, but I think we could make them faster if we had a broader perspective.
We have a lot of concern about the Avastin issue and issues similar to this, in that there are certain communities, maybe micro-communities, such as the triple-negative community or the BRCA-positive community, that benefit from certain drugs, whereas the larger population may not see benefit. And our concern is that when something like Avastin, which we're hearing from our own constituents, has shown positive implications in that community, the risk of taking that off the market to help maybe a broader population that is not seeing benefits really does significant harm to those smaller micro communities. And we're hoping that this is something that's taken into account long term, because these communities need the drug options and the therapeutic options that they may have nowhere else to turn. They're the last resort. And we're hoping that the Avastin issue goes in the direction of considering that instead of pulling it off the market, because it's going to eliminate a treatment option for a significant portion of people who may benefit.
And it is important as we move into these targeted therapies to be able to define the target, measure the target, and unfortunately with Avastin and some other drugs, we went about it in the opposite direction. And clearly there does appear to be a population that really is going to benefit. And I think the continuing research now is to take all the data from the trials that have already happened, the ones that are still in progress, and see if we can't distill where that group is, who is going to get the benefit of the drug, because none of us want to see people get a drug that they shouldn't get.
And emotionally, these are difficult and volatile issues, because you look at the large number of patients, and then you look at individuals. And when it's you or someone you love, it's a very different scenario than when you can be more objective and look at the bigger picture.